Okay, now we are going to add bass. And just to remind you what bass is the low notes that support chords. Bass lines are almost always one note at a time not because there's a rule against it, but because the bass notes, the waveforms that they create in physical space are huge, 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 huge. So when you play a bunch of bass notes close together, you can hear that overlap and the muddiness because there's so much, they're stepping on each other. So bass functions best as one note at a time, generally speaking. What you're going to do to add a bass instrument, click the plus sign down here. We're going to use the on-screen keyboard. If you don't see that, first you can swipe around. There's your on-screen keyboard. Tap that right there in the middle, and you get something here. Every iPad's probably going to take you to a different one. There's all these different categories. This is on the synthesizer category. I'm going to show you the electric piano first because there's less bells and whistles to mess with there. Here's a couple important things you need to know. It starts you off right in the middle of a keyboard. Bass, again, that's the lowest note, so you're going to want to at least go an octave down. Notice this button right here. That's how we're changing that. You can also dial it in with this button in the middle, glissando and scroll. Glissando lets you do this. Scroll lets you do this and get exactly which notes you want on screen. I'm going to go to -2. How aggressively you tap the screen, by the way, changes how it affects the sound. Now, for our demonstration purposes here, I'm just going to use 2 notes to support 2 chords in my first section. Now, what I would recommend doing is write out what you want to try before you do it. And that way, you have a much better understanding of what you're actually doing. You've got a roadmap. That's going to save you a lot of time. So I'm going to go back to the track view button. Tap that so I can show you this. I've decided that my first 4 measures, that's going to be a drum intro. And I want my bass to come in here. Let these 4 measures happen. So right there is where I want bass to come in. I've got my playhead in the right spot. I'm going to click the piano track and then click the piano track up here, the piano button, excuse me. Got my songs, the squares, piano right there. So get your on-screen keyboard set up. I'm going to use C and E flat. By the way, I said one note at a time. That means not... See how muddy that gets? As opposed to an octave is, in a lot of ways, still just one note. So that's an octave. If I was going from this D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, octagon, octopus, octave, 8 steps. A lot of bass lines use the octaves to create patterns, and I'm going to build my idea around that as well. So here we go. Just like that. Now, if you feel like what you played doesn't sound like it fits the drummer, here's an easy fix for that. Now, you're going to need to play in time as much as you possibly can. Pro tip, slow it down so that it makes it a little easier. You can always speed it back up and it will change for you. If you click a region, go to settings, this quantization button lets you dial it in. It snaps it to an imaginary grid. Let's go 16th note. Let's see how that changes it. It automatically snapped it to fit exactly in the grid. So I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to look at it here just to show you what I'm talking about. If you go edit, there we go. So my timing was pretty good. These dark lines, the dark white line, that's the beginning of a measure. Here's another one right there. That's the beginning of the 8th measure. And all these secondary lines are, it's like a ruler, really. So there's 4 of these, like quarter notes. So you got 1. This is the beginning of the second note, second beat, 3, third beat, 4th beat, and then all these little subdivisions here. So the 16th notes are what you're looking at here, here, here. Anyway, when you quantize, it moves these notes to snap them to either the 16th notes, which would be right there, there, or 8th notes, which is every other line, because that's how math works. Anyway, so you can quantize it or not. I'm going to go ahead and put a quantize on there. And I'm also, let's see. So I had C and E flat there. Got another section. Here's a 4 measure section. I'm going to pick 2 more notes to play in this 4 measure section here. Actually, let's see. So for this section, I'm going to use A flat. I couldn't help it. I had to add that G there. Just felt like it needed to be there. So now, I'm going to recycle this thing I played before. Copy. Put the playhead here. Click that region right there. Paste. Boom. So now, not bad. So then you would continue to fill in the rest of your song with bass notes, and in the next video, I'm going to show you how to make chords on top of it. Remember, keep it simple at first, or you're going to get lost in the weeds. Keep it simple and build on it. Build from a place of simplicity. That's what you need to do.